Well, sort of, you mentioned it earlier, like there's a lot of similarities between working with children and like doing the one great work in that you're sort of like teaching spiritual children oftentimes and moving into sort of older generations, like more calcification, trying to have that higher level of understanding of, okay, we're all connected, we are one, and like we're all sort of like living through this like illusion experience of separation, and just sort of like patiently like holding every soul that we come across of whatever age, spiritually or chronologically, and just like hoping we like touch them in some sort of way, spiritually, so that for their growth, even if it's just like for a second.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's heaps of parallels to that. Even the shadow work seminar, I do think if you went out there and you tried to get better outcomes for kids in 3D reality, especially young children, because of where their brain development's at, I just think that that is actually a form of shadow work as well. But to respond to exactly what you just said is it's also like, Mark Passio talks about the hanged man. Like he, for a while in his podcast, he was sort of saying like he was kind of like the hanged man, trying to wait for people to catch up, or like there's that sort of patience element to it. And you know how he always mentions that, there's other things he'd rather be doing and stuff like that. And that's a kind of hanged man energy. But it's also a care thing, right? Because it's, you're saying how, doing that, it's like the great work because you're trying to, well, you're exercising patience and trying to raise people up, right? And that is that, right? And that is the great work. It's not the only thing, but that is definitely the great work in 3D reality. And that's hard to, I don't know, I feel like that's hard to stick with because we live in a sort of online world, right? But the 3D reality stuff is really, really where it's at, especially for the kids. Otherwise, the kids are going to be left behind. And I mean, well, that's another topic to talk about, technology for young children and stuff, which is like a really depressing black hole. Oh.
Yeah. Well, let's just go there, man. Let's just talk about uncomfortable things. I mean, like, I see the value in technology, obviously, because we can use it for good purposes, to spread, natural law understanding, for, humanity. But on the other side, we have these like sort of like algorithms that are like, designed to have us scrolling for hours and like feeling less than, and like, of whatever age, and like, all sorts of like, polarity of engineering. And yeah, I made a decision for the Liberation Academy that, if you're going to work with like our online faculty, when I sort of like get my shit together with my child custody case, and can focus on the business again, having sort of older kids work with the online faculty, even if it's, whatever, like a Zoom call, sort of similar to this, where they're having an interaction with the teacher, like that's, there's a lot of skills, prerequisite skills for that developmentally have to happen. And it just, I think what makes me really sort of like when you go out and you see like a family, and like the infant is like finger swiping across an iPad at the dinner table, and it's like, wow, like And then there's this other sort of like reaction, right, to technology that I'm noticing where like I think a lot of like millennial, sort of older Gen Z parents are thinking about, rewilding their children, homesteading, unschooling, homeschooling. All these sort of like buzzword topics are happening because I think, there's this sort of like bifurcation happening where like some people are really like signing up for that, technological mind control takeover, and then like there's some parents that are really just being like, let's just go out in nature and get muddy and like, like fuck the screens, like let's just like ground ourselves. And so there's different camps, I would say. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, it's like very tribal in the present day, and my opinion is that, well, it kind of depends because generally speaking, they both sound unbalanced, right? For is that kind of what you mean? That they're both sort of they're a little bit unbalanced, like the people that are like, right, I'm taking my kids out into the forest and you know, kind of isolating them in a way, even though there's nature as the teacher, which is fantastic, but they're putting them in this utopia that could never really last if other people aren't,
if other people
if they're not connecting with other people and everyone's transforming. And then there's the other people that just, give everything to technology, and then they think we just need iPad apps that, for 3-year-olds that, sing songs about, I don't know, spirituality or natural law or these sorts of things. And I mean, there might be a place for that, but they both kind of move into these two camps that are kind of opposed to each other, and they're not. What's the word? It's a bit like an either or thing. Like, say someone's eating an apple, and then another person sees that and thinks that's so racist to bananas. How could you hate bananas so much? It's like, dude, I'm just eating an apple. I got a whole bunch of bananas back there. You know what I mean? And that sort of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, that's my brain. That's stupid, eh? But the point is, I think I've been obviously studying heaps on Rudolf Steiner. I've been reading a lot of his stuff over the years. And I do think that is what he talks about as the Ahrimanic force. And there's the Ahriman and there's the Lucifer. And like, this is very boiled down, but the Luciferian force is very like heady, like ideas and, intuition and higher order thinking and thoughts, and maybe even like, magical stuff, like ritual stuff that's all, done with the mind and that sort of thing. And then the Ahrimanic force is very materialistic, and it's, yeah, I think like I'm still probably figuring out how to explain it, so I probably don't have the full grasp, but it's it's called, like Rudolf Steiner calls it, like hyper materialistic. So when you see something, that is the totality of what it is, and there can't be sort of anything else. So like social media and online stuff is very Ahrimanic, and that's where people theorize, and I kind of believe that this Ahrimanic force that is trying to take away our kind of our humanity and our spirituality is kind of through the like social media and stuff like that. And that's why I find it hard to just like comment on social media, because I might say something and then that's kind of like inferring that I disagree and hate everybody, that doesn't, that becomes the context of whatever their conversation is going on in their head. But I simply don't know them, right? And they don't know where I'm thinking. But my post becomes the totality of who I am and what I represent. You know what I mean? And I think, I do think even this, the point of what I'm saying is I think even this whole we're going out into the forest and doing that, I actually believe that is also a product of technology, ironically. Like that whole concept and that tribe manifested through social media and the information that we find online, and these tribes on, say, Telegram. I don't know where they are, like obviously probably Telegram, Facebook, that sort of thing. And and I just want to circle back to my my sort of standing on all of that is that I think the change and the freedom can be created anywhere with everyone and anyone, if just adults choose to just spend more time, because you can take your kid all the way out to the forest and or go into a community and all that sort of thing, but if you're not actually working on that bond and spending that time, then you you aren't really doing that work, the great work. You aren't really doing that shadow work. You aren't really doing the thing that's there for you to do. Because I think also there are rewards. There are like the karma sort of cycle thing is a real big deal with engaging with young children. Like they test your patience. It's really stressful. Um, it brings up stuff about you and your childhood and your life that's really painful and traumatic, and you're juggling all these things at the same time. You've got so many things to worry about. Like I also do what I do for out of respect for parents, like big respect, because I see how hard it is, and I see why it is how it is as well. And so it's like so many things to juggle, and then on top of it, you actually should be digging deeper and spending more time with your kid. It's like, and that as well, like, and it's everything set up to stop you from doing that. But when you do it, you get spiritual growth, you get spiritual reward, you get growth in intuition, and that's proven by by science, really, that when you're tired and you're stressed out, you kind of get put into the brainwave state that like people that are into magic and stuff like that, um, get themselves into, and it's why like occultists and stuff they do a lot of work before they go to sleep and when they wake up, like intention setting and maybe a tarot reading or affirmations, whatever they're trying to put their mind to, and then they sleep on it, and then they wake up in the morning, and then they do some more of that stuff. Then those are the kind of witching hour times for us to connect to spirit or to whatever we're trying to work with, or whatever, or just God. And that space, the spending time with young children puts your brain into that space, just during the day or wherever. So, and then it's also, I think it's a Buddhist thing, right? That your patience is like, well, patience is a virtue, but it's exercising your patience is also growing your intuition. That's like the intuition muscle. So as you make more effort on the kids, your intuition grows, and having a larger intuition, well, that's great for all kinds of things. Whatever you're into, you can get into your tarot or your dowsing or whatever you want to do, and it helps with your shadow work if you're looking in front of the mirror. Just having a good feeling about things. It's guidance, right? So you're growing kind of your reception to and your connection to being guided naturally in life, and part of that is, or that guidance is of nature and is under natural law. So it's like, if people are doing that, then that's where the answer is. That's where the change and the solution is in it. I think it happens pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I think it's so like cool to get to know you and see the side of you, because like I'm more familiar with your uh, secret kindergarten program. But yeah, like I resonated with a lot of what you said, and sort of going back to this sort of like, Ahrimanic Luciferian sort of like forces. I think having that center path, right, of just choosing, okay, well, there are certain aspects of technology that are useful for, higher level purposes, and learning those skills and becoming familiar for that purpose, and just using these tools as they are tools. They're neither good nor bad, right? It's just how you wield the tool. And also grounding oneself in nature, when you spent too much time, with blue light exposure and all this. Um, but yeah, going to this idea, uh, you know, spending time with children, right? I think also, my sort of background in special education as well has made me think about certain neurological circumstances that may play a role physiologically and anatomically in certain people, and just being patient with that too. And if you look at the human populace, depending on the country, a lot of people are like vaccine injured just on that part alone, if not just like swimming in a bath of pharmaceutical drugs and stuff. And so it's like, how do we get to these frankly brain injured souls, and just sort of um, looking at, yeah, I really view the one great work as not that much different from working in early childhood or in special education. You're kind of having to like, for lack of a better word, sort of like bring things down to their like rudimentary levels, and trying to sort of trick people into having an understanding of these concepts without explicitly teaching, is sort of how I've kind of gone about it, like through music and through just like sort of indirect means. But that's also, probably like my more like feminine leaning energy. But anyway, I'm kind of like rambling.
No, you're not. Um, no, I agree about the center path. Um, that while like the Aramanic forces sort of overpowering in my opinion online, um, that's not to say that. Well, just I agree. The center path, there is the Aramanic force and there's a Luciferian force, and we're supposed to balance them out. So it's not a one or the other kind of thing. And that's a cool thing. Like we can do stuff with it's yes, again it's that spending time, right? Doing that, doing the work, just getting involved with the kids, and also living your life a bit. And it's good to just be who you are too. And spending time with kids is a good time to incorporate your own interests. Just like how you're saying, incorporating like natural law into the things that you do with your kids when you're teaching, um, and that sort of thing. Like, yeah, you got to bring yourself in with it, because that's the part that they, you know, it's part of what helps them become who they are as well. So things that you like to do, they're going to do them too. And I'm definitely like I'm a big like from sort of 2 to 7 years old. I'm definitely big on like not direct instruction. Uh, that's that is kind of like I think something that is misunderstood a little bit in the freedom community. I want to give you an example of well, I want to give people watching an example, right? Like say these books that people are really against, which of course, like books that are being published that are very woke, like my two gay transsexual dads or whatever, that sort of thing. And, my mum now has a penis and all this sort of thing. All these kind of books, and people are really against them. And the knee jerk reaction is to go, we need books that are like, my mum is a girl and my dad is a boy, and that's the end of it. Like, just to fight back. And the point of my story is that the problem with all of those is that they are actually, those kind of books are actually in the same camp as these woke books, in the sense that they don't acknowledge the world of the young child, which is a subconscious thing. It's a fantasy thing. It's an imagination thing. So the books for kids, it's like fairy tales and, you know, made up stuff, fantasy, all that sort of thing. Direct instructional type books that are sort of based on the real world happenings, I believe that they're damaging. Not in like a super like, oh my god kind of way, but they're kind of stupefying. Is the word that I'm looking for. That's what I think. They're they're unremarkable books, and that leads to unremarkable views and unremarkable lives, um, and later in life. And so this direct instruction type thing of young children, it kind of says to a child, hey, it's about the messaging behind everything. So if you want to sit down and say, listen, I want to tell you now about natural law, for example. Da 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 da. Now little Timmy, there's a thing called natural law you need to know. It's kind of like saying, it really, and you could just put anything, like, I want to tell you about anything in the world, right? Anything in the world that you think's true and your kid needs to know. It's like telling your kid, hey, I just want you to know because you're really dumb and you don't know these things. So who you are now is not good enough right now. So you have to be, I have to show you this thing because it's just not happening for you right now. Everything's wrong right now. Like, you need to know this. This is like really important. And for kids, that's like antithetical. It should just be play, going nuts, painting, throwing paint around, making bread, I don't know, all that sort of thing. And the natural law stuff happens in the moment. And the thing we do forget in the preschool years is that young children still are in the hands of God, and God is, quote unquote, natural law, right? And it doesn't mean that they are perfect. Um, it just means that they are connected. They are part of. They're literally part of natural law, but they don't know why. It's just what they are. It's just what is, and that part of them that's there, it's for us to leave alone and to respect, um, because it's God, right? It's natural. It's natural law. It's the operating system. Like, we can't control it. We can live according to it and under it and stuff like that. So I've got very like so this is where I think I'm misunderstood, because in a way I've kind of come all the way full circle to just like, kids like doing that, therefore it's good, and that's true. So just like climbing trees, a lot of things kids like to do are actually really hard to let them do too, because like, say, letting a 3-year-old climb a tree, that's scary. That's scary. That's scary for me. If I'm caring for a kid and they're climbing a tree, I'm like, oh my God. And they'll climb something that looks really risky. And then for a parent, right? And then you've got, things like, you've got people that make you answer to them for that, right? Say your child gets injured, then that's scary. Going to the doctor with your child who has an injury, well, the doctor suddenly says, oh, I care about your kid. What's this all about? I need to investigate this. What happened here? And then now you're kind of under scrutiny from someone that couldn't give a hoot really about your kid. It's just them just doing their job, quote unquote. So it, like, the basics are actually really hard to like allow to flourish. Basically risky play, like, say, getting construction tools for a 3-year-old boy, like an adult hammer and an adult hacksaw and stuff like that. We learnt about how that stuff's actually good and how capable kids are, right? But then you see it, it's kind of nerve wracking. It's like the claw, a claw hammer, and it's like going real close to the eye. And I swear, I've never once seen one child ever injured by any of those things. And I still can't believe, like, I still have doubt that that's actually like a, guardian angel thing or something. Like they're just protected under certain circumstances. Because I can't believe how things have gone in construction areas for young children and the chaos of like early childhood center, playground, like the chaos, and then there's like hammers and hacksaws and in a certain area, right? But yeah, it's crazy. It
But,
it makes me think about you starting up your school, and I get nervous just on your behalf, thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm really worried for Geri. Like, I'm just scared that, like, I don't know what the rules and the laws and stuff are. Like, I just think, oh man, how can she do it? Like, as in, like, just it takes courage, right? It's like, I was just think, I don't know how I could ever do that. Like, the amount of scrutiny is the word I'm looking for, like, and responsibility. And I get scared for you. I get really worried for you. But I don't know. What do you think
you know
about
what?
this? Like maybe what the rules and regs are in Florida. Maybe they're a bit relaxed.
Um, Firstly, I am sort of just flowing with your energy. You have a very like calm, protective energy, which I really appreciate. Uh, so thank you for that. Um, yeah, I've learned a lot about private membership associations and trusts and things of that nature where one can sort of build financial and legal sovereignty out of certain sort of state jurisdictions. So I've learned a lot about that. And that will probably be the direction for the Liberation Academy so that when we do eventually launch a hybrid situation, that it's really the responsibility of the parent who sends their child to that space to take on any liability. Um, it's not really, and this whole like, I'm sort of like using the holes within the legal system to have it eat itself in my sort of legal battlefield that I'm sort of like experiencing. Um, but yeah, like I think there's inherently within the law, within the sort of like rules and regulations of things, is like this um, lack of responsibility. That people don't want to take responsibility for themselves and their actions and their risks that they take on, and sort of just like you said, just telling people what the risks are as we are aware of them, and having people make decisions for themselves. And like, I love everything that you said about, I think because you and I have a sort of understanding or like background sort of understanding of Rudolf Steiner's work with like, really sort of teaching through like storytelling and archetypes in a way versus like, yeah, like you said, like directly like, okay, this and this, because like even like your choice in like asking me like, do I want the screen to be big or small, and it's like we have to literally get to the kids level, like get down on our knees and like talk to them eye to eye, because like I'm not better than you, I'm here to help you because I happen to have a few more years in these types of bodies, but like I'm here to help guide you in your experience, your human experience here.
Yeah.
And that's all that really we are as adults. And like, so that, when they do become adults, they're not going to have to go through these incredible, shadow works, experiences. Cause like you said, they can just experience their sort of human little C creator, uh, you know, uh, wholeness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually really hard to. I've seen it is actually hard for adults to get down to the same level as young children, like maybe sit cross-legged on the floor with them and that sort of thing. It's kind of humiliating from adult to adult. Say you walk into a room and you see like a grown, grown ass man or woman crawling around on the floor around some Lego or playing with Lego or something like that. So, like you said, we should be doing that, and yeah, we got to just drop those sensibilities to the wayside. One thing I discovered from doing this, getting down to the level of children, literally, like physically, is it opens up a whole other world and it opens up part of their world. You start to see ants and grasshoppers and crickets and praying mantises, and that's part of the world of kids. All these things like insects and flowers and herbs and plants, and these are all symbolic too. And these are all part of what adults get in return is messaging from nature. So that's how I started to get into symbolism. Was literally from animals and insects. So like animal spirit symbolism and stuff like that. Like that's all there waiting for parents if they want to get involved. And I'm really big into all that sort of stuff. I'm like pretty freaky about all that sort of thing. And then I've got more of a love for that stuff as well. Um, yeah, yeah,
I was sort of thinking sometime in the future if there is a sort of revenue possibility for it, is to create like a video game for older students that you go through like different lifetimes. So like you start off as like a rock, and then like whatever you're sort of like not experiencing agency, and then our free will, and then like you move on to like being an insect, and then like depending on your choices, and then you can really like experience like karma, and then like it could be like and then when you get to being human, you realize what your purpose is, and then you try to like talk about stuff to people, teach them, and then you get banned on YouTube or whatever, and then you gotta like you know come up with a different plan or something for your streaming or whatever. I don't know. I just thought it'd be
like
like
a
kind of funny to like
spiritual,
gamify,
yeah,
yeah, spiritual in a way. Yeah,
spiritual GTA.
yeah, but like moral, and like
Yeah,
if you're treating it like GTA, like having the consequences
yeah,
for that, and like going back to whatever, being like I don't know, like a piece of silica that powers the AI for the person using the AI like for correct purposes or some shit. I don't know.
hey, that's a big idea. That's another big project.
Yeah,
It's good.
it's hard because it's like when I'm in my sort of like, child mind state, I get a lot of ideas, and focusing has been hard. So I've been really trying to just do one thing at a time because I can't do, it's like what Mark said in his presentation. Like it there is no multitasking. You can really just, yeah. And so but I like brainstorming, and I like sort of being in my imagination and stuff, and like I think working with children sort of helps people fall into that sort of uh, sense of wonderment within themselves.
Yeah, I think Yeah, I definitely have the same thing as you, definitely. So yeah, on this shadow work journey, definitely share with me any tips and tricks. I've been trying to, well, for the last year or two, I try to sort of block everything. So like, if I've got one project, I do a chunk of that on one day, and then a chunk of something thing on another day. It it's still the beast still wants to come back, and I'm like, man, I'm just spending time with all these different ideas, trying to juggle how I'm going to fit them into like the month or whatever, and then I can get lost in that. So for me, it's a bit of a battle. But that thing in the Shadowwork seminar, using your non-dominant hand for things as a way to sort of balance the brain, that's a really cool one. I'm going to start doing that with my mouse, which reminds me, well, I don't need it now, but I'll put it on my left hand because I use the mouse with my right. But yeah, those sorts of things. But yeah, like
Also dancing and playing instruments with both hands, you know?
yeah, and this is all stuff that kids are into as well. So there is a massive crossover between, you know, where like the direction that an adult is to go in their life, and maybe things that they can do or maybe should do as part of their like dharma. This stuff comes up with kids, because I guess, like, you know, there's a finite amount of things that we can really do, like, and they're amazing, right? Like things like music and art and all these sorts of things. Like, obviously there's a lot of scope in those things, but down to the basics, the kids love all that. And there's maybe fundamental stuff in what kids like to do that adults can do with kids that you discover about yourself that you really, really like, or you think, actually, that's what I really want to do. And that's where all the ideas come from. All these cool ideas. Inspiration. Yeah, that's it. Inspiration. But,
I think you're doing amazing shit, man. Like, for people that aren't familiar, you know, definitely check out Gino's work, because I was telling you before we started, I guess, recording, that, yeah, like, when I had my kids around, we would just listen to your podcast in the car, and it was really great because, like, you know, even just the auditory sort of comprehension, listening skills required to like hear a story and like think about it. Also, you know, just like there's just so much, and then just the music and just, I really, I really like the way you think about folklore and, yeah, just archetypes, and you're basically teaching kids how to do shadow work while in their prime formative years. Like, you're like hitting on like gold, like, you know, spiritual awakening level work that people should know about, I think.
that means a lot to me, Geri. Thank you so much. And especially coming from you and all the amazing stuff you do. It's awesome to finally connect. It really is. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, I think, you know, just the simple stuff, right? Reading a story and listening to a story. Listening, children using their listening skills to listen to stuff is really powerful. And yeah, and that can be done in many ways, and that's kind of the motivation for the radio show, just as like a listening thing. And I always thought, actually, you know, people can put it on in the car while they're driving with their kids in the back. Also, yeah, can have it just in the background in the house, like while people go about their day and stuff like that. I'd like to think the content inside brings up ideas or points of interest. And maybe not all children are, you know, listeners in that way, but for those that are, and, you know, there might be just some things that pop up, you know, maybe a particular animal or a fairy tale or folk story that becomes like a favorite, And kids have their favorite stuff and they want to hear them again and again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's really, yeah, of course. I think it's really important having two boys, but for all children in general, like having a sort of like strong, nurturing male archetype in their lives, even if it is through a radio show. Just having that archetype is really important because that's missing in a lot of kids' worlds sometimes. And so, for me, I had a very sort of like insecure attachment with both my parents, a lot of like unhealed sort of like narcissistic wounding and stuff, as is common, I think, with a lot of families. And so, I would look at, figures like Mr. Rogers as a sort of like nurturing male archetype, because like I didn't really have that. And like who's this, like we need these. I mean, there's going to be, a lot of exemplars, I think, for like the female nurturing archetype, but not necessarily oftentimes for the male nurturing archetype, right? What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Oh, I think you're right. And it's really sad. And I don't know what it is. I mean, because it's part of why I do this, because I know I'm definitely a bit of a freak in terms of like that whole dynamic. Like, I'm one of 7 kids, so I'm from like a Catholic family. I'm the second oldest, and there's 7 of us. So I've always been around kids, and I do actually enjoy being around kids. So that's also, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and it is hard, right? But yeah, it's sad. It's sad. And I had a thought about it today. Well, that's what I was thinking about today. Here in this small town in New Zealand, so in New Zealand you've got sort of 3 or 4 kind of main cities, which aren't really that big. And then you've got all the provinces, like the rural areas with towns and stuff like that. And yeah, nearly everybody is separated or divorced, and I don't have kids, and part of that was like I didn't think I'd know how to not be separated if I had kids, in the sense that I struggle to keep my own life together without kids, right? So I'm saying this kind of like, I'm like a rung down from people that are separated. Like, I never even got to that part to separate, right? Like, I didn't even have the kids to, so like I'm not judging everybody in that sense. I'm just meaning more like the dynamic and the society that we live in is all geared up for that. We're kind of pushed to that, and we're entrained into that. And, it comes down to like, the abandonment concept and where that originated and all that. It does tie in with all that. But I notice here in the provinces in New Zealand, you turn on the radio and you look at the newspaper, and it's all about dividing men and women. It's all about dividing men and women. And you turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, and it'll be like, news update. And I'm not even exaggerating. I couldn't even believe it when I turned it on. It was a man has been reprimanded by police for getting angry at his workplace in an office, and he had a managerial role, and police are now talking to him seriously about the effect that it has made on the employees at the thing. And it was literally a guy lost his temper. And it doesn't mean it's okay to like yell at people, right? But this is a news update. So everyone in this province listening to that radio driving along is being programmed with things that are, this is news. This is a big thing. This is a big problem. And here there's loads of, like, I don't think I know any I maybe know one or two people, but most people are separated. And there's this man versus woman type thing. And then it does come in, there is like that sort of the neo-feminism thing, right? Men not being allowed to do certain masculine things. And part of that is why I did leave teaching. It really does come down to not really mattering about gender, but actually the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine principles. And in the early childhood centers, it's the sacred masculine that's removed, the sticking up for yourself and taking action, right? So kids are getting bullied, but the bullies, I never understood how the bullies kind of get the free pass, where it's kind of like maybe, you know, men aren't allowed to be angry, men aren't allowed to do that, but then the bullies kind of get away with it. But cause and effect. So the Hermetic principle of cause and effect is something that's actively taken out of the early learning centers. So a kid gets smacked by somebody and they are trained not to respond because smacking isn't okay. But the instigator, well, they've taken upon themselves to instigate, and no one can really stop the instigation because it's their choice in the moment to just pick up their hand and go and smack someone. You can't always be, preventing people, blocking people from smacking with their hands, right? And then the victims are trained to become victims. And that's, I think, what we see play out in adulthood. People want to be victims too. People are used to being victims. So, this radio update of a man getting angry in the workplace, that's also, people hearing that, getting in touch with their own victimhood. Oh, I was yelled at by my dad or by somebody, and it's just perpetrated. So it's like, there's an us versus them, and there's a winner and a loser in all these dynamics, and it doesn't have to be like that, but it's what we're all kind of trained to be and to do. The big one in the early childhood is self-defense, just self-assertion and sticking up for yourself. I think that's really the key. But for a kid to feel safe to do that, they need a bond with an adult that understands that, which comes back to teaching natural law, and adults need to understand that that's important. And you'll find, to everybody out there that might be listening, is you'll find that a lot of people that understand that are ex-teachers or kind of caregivers in institutional kind of settings. People that care and work in care industries and realize their care is not actually affecting any change because of these systems that are in place to stop care from happening. And then they get an understanding of things like the self-defense principle, because I might talk to an ex-teacher and talk about it, and they'll say, yeah, that kid should have smacked that other kid back. What the heck was going on there? And that's how things really change and how things really stop. And that's an example of, a world without rulers and a world without slaves, anarchism, where every individual takes responsibility for things that are happening, and taking responsibility for taking the right action under natural law. And that's the only way it can be. They can't, it can't be outsourced to authority. There's no way it can work. And the early childhood centers are an example of that, but also the breeding ground for the obfuscation of natural law principles. It's pretty heavy, It's pretty deep. But yeah, solution's simple, right? Just spend time with your kids or spend time with people's kids. Way easier said than done. It's so hard to do. We're so busy, and it can be embarrassing, humiliating, and kind of dangerous as well, based on other adults being judgmental and stuff like that. Yeah, I sort of drifted off a bit.
Yeah, I think we've been socially engineered. Sometimes there are, of course, actual cases, but like, you know, sometimes there is no cause for alarm for, you know, just having like a big brother figure in a child's life. And, you know, as a single mom, um, struggling in with a, you know, sort of child custody situation, like, um, it would be great to, and I know I have a network of brothers that, you know, if ever we were to meet up, they would like totally like play with my kids and just like give them that moment of care, even if it's just a moment, just to like again like solidify that like divine masculine sort of archetype within their minds. And I think, you know, if all of us did that for all the kids that we like come across, whether they're biologically related to us or not, just like doing the right thing, man. Like I remember like I saw this mom once at a store, and she was like kind of, her kid was just sort of like bored and asking questions, and then she like smacked him. And I was just like, I just straight up told her, I'm like, you know, I don't think you should be doing that. And she's like, mind your own business. And I was like, whatever, man. Like, I just said my piece. But like the way her kid looked at me when I stood up for him, it was like, wow, for the first time, someone actually saw me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not invisible. Yeah. Even if it was just for just a moment at a store in line, like, and that's all that we can do for people, right? Whether they're spiritual children or chronologically aged children, is just try to do the right thing by them. And that like little moment that we have with them, whether that moment is 18 years or 18 seconds, you know?
Yeah, that moment for that child is was probably more important for that kid than like people would know. And it's sad. It's also great that you did that. It's just so sad for the kid, right? That like, I don't know, that's probably pessimistic. Like, it was a really good thing what you did, of course, and it was such a good thing for the child to experience somebody sticking up for what's right. And then at the same time, it's sad that that kid probably is really reaching out for that, and he got that from you just in the line at a supermarket. And that's the part that kind of makes me sad. But you're right, and that is what everyone needs to be doing. Even, this is crazy, I was thinking about this, it's funny, I was actually thinking about this morning, this exact thing. So that's such a cool story you brought up, and it's, well, it is synchronistic. Even like, say, physical, like self-defense or something in front, like say there's an adult somewhere and there are kids around, you know, people are like, there are kids around, what are you doing, you know, that sort of thing. But if it's the right thing, the adult should do it. Like, you know, say if another adult's doing something really bad, and another adult's like, that's so bad, I want to stop it, but there's kids around, and they say, stop doing that, there's kids around. No, the adult should do the thing that the adult would do in front of the kid, because the kid then gets to witness a right action. But people think that it doesn't work like that. People think it works in some weird kind of trauma way. It may upset the child. I can't think of an example, but like, yeah, I'm talking about, like, say if someone punches somebody in the face or something, or they have a fight, but say it's over something that is worthy of that. Like, if somebody did that, they deserve to be beaten up, that's unbelievable, or something. Like, if someone does something wrong under natural law, and you get naturally really angry and you want to punch that person in the face, I think people should do that even if there are kids around. So that sounds pretty psycho and crazy, but kids need to see people doing the right thing under the right circumstances, no matter what the circumstances are. We can't hide. Like, look at the society we live in. It's out of control. And kids are taking that in, and they're taking that on board. And they need the conscious mother at the supermarket telling their own parent to stop doing what is wrong, they need that. But they need that from everybody, so it stops. And it's a little bit like that forced shadow work. So yeah, easier said than done. And me, I don't even have kids, so I can go around saying that. And I can probably go and be that crazy guy and have less consequence because, you know, no one can take kids away from me that I don't have, right? So, you know, but yeah, I think like the hardcore aspect of natural law is, you know, totally appropriate for kids, and they need to be actually, you know, they're in a very physical time in their life, and they need to be using their physical attributes to stick up for themselves and protect themselves, and they need to see what that looks like in real life. And well, people don't understand it, right? And look at UFC and that sort of thing. I follow it a bit morbidly at the moment. I mean, I am interested in martial arts, but I follow like a little bit of the drama, because the drama, it's obviously like wrestling, WWF or whatever, but I follow it as a study of the obfuscation of, you know, the self-defense principle and the obfuscation of cause and effect. Like recently there was a fight and they have the weigh-ins and they face each other off, and one of the guys headbutted the other guy. So in real life, if someone came up to you and faced you and they headbutted you, well, you have a right to defend yourself because they've just broken the rules, right? And then they had an interview later, and the guy who did the headbutting was saying, and people were saying, oh, we respect the other guy who took the headbutt, and he just took it like a man and he didn't do anything about it. So the guy that got headbutted was praised for not doing anything, but no one was saying this guy was an asshole for doing the headbutt. Because the guy that did the headbutt won the fight, but that's separate, right? And I guess the point of my story is it's like everything's conflated in UFC, and then people think, and then it's training men, which is really happening today, to walk around think they know about like the ethics around violence, when they're actually being trained they're actually being trained to not understand. They're actually being trained to completely go against the rules around violence and self-defense, you know, cause and effect, and, you know, causing harm versus, you know, sticking up for harm not to be done. And the UFC is like literally training men to have no understanding of that whatsoever. And I see that around people I know, other men that I know in my life, and they become more outspoken the more they study and watch these things, like in the UFC, and they willingly want to incorporate it into their life, these behaviors, because that's what being a man is. And that's UFC fighters are kind of the hallmark of what being a real man is. Everybody knows deep down that you know, martial arts, that sort of thing, combat is a part of life, and, you know, that real men need to incorporate that into their life. And the UFC just completely destroys all the ethics around that, the actual natural law ethics. And deep down, we all want to know the real ethics. So people just going to UFC and going, oh, that's the ethics around that. That's the ethics around that. Where you get people assaulting people essentially, and for no reason, and thinking that they're in the right, you know. It's getting to that point. And that's just to circle all the way back to like the masculine figures in people's lives. Yeah, we do, but we also need, like, you know, masculine figures that actually understand the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah, I used to really be into sort of mixed martial arts. I studied taekwondo, judo, jiu-jitsu, and you know, while I appreciate, well, firstly, I think those UFC fights are rigged.
Ah,
Because you study martial arts, you'll notice, why didn't he block that kick? Or like he had plenty of time to do this maneuver instead. Why did he had that opening? Why didn't he take it? You know? And so like there are certain moments like that where I'm like that don't make no sense. Like it's only the second round and they're behaving that way. They're not tired. Like these people train for scenarios. They watch the fight videos of their opponent like a like it's a college lecture that they have an exam on, that is their job, that is their how they're supporting their families, or ostensibly. So but I do suspect that there may be some element of rigging, and that would make sense because there's a lot of like betting, culture surrounding UFC. But yeah, going to what you said, yeah, like it makes my heart feel so, happy and warm to know that there's like spiritual alpha males that like actually care about teaching, objective morality to the next generations. Cause yeah, like there's a lot of toxic, and not in a woke term, but like unholy, masculine, whether it's in like the order followers sort of archetype, or whether it's in the sort of like, doesn't matter who started it, might is right sort of like mentality, in the mixed martial arts community. And I would see that it doesn't even matter whether or not, who initiates things or whatever. It's, who's the better fighter. And like, what kind of like morality is that? Like, that's like really gross. And like, for what? Money? That's even grosser. Like, so it's just, and it sucks because it's like there is an aspect within myself, that like, why did I train all those years? Because part of me does want to use it in self-defense, but only in self-defense. But like there is that aspect of me that like wants to use what I studied, and so I understand the urge. I understand it, that shadow side of why you would even start studying martial arts, you know
I agree 1,000,000% with everything you just said. It's so cool to talk to you about this. Um, yeah, it's definitely a necessity, and it's hard. It's hard, to go out there and train because you're going into these places like dojos or what have you, training halls or whatever, and you're going to be around all this dynamic. And yeah, it's a bit of a minefield. You're going to have to train with people that just want to be the winner at all costs and can't stand being a loser. Like I've seen, you go to these places and you think, oh, what happened to that guy? He was here. He was here last week and now he's not here. People don't want to hurt their ego, and people don't want to feel like the loser. And and that feeling stops people from being able to cooperate properly, because training is training, right? You're supposed to be helping one another, but if people are hell-bent on looking awesome at every waking moment, well, they're not going to do very well, or they're going to make other people not do very well at the expense of them protecting their ego. So yeah, it's tough. Like that's the moral of the story, and it does correspond to the kids too. Like that the kids need to do, physical, need to exercise physical self-defense, and so do adults. So we do need to train, and that is, we do have to really do that journey. And so things for yourself are things for adults are good for kids, right? So if you're a mum or a dad, that's another hard thing. Instead of going to the gym, you want to look at going to like a martial arts gym, sort of thing. And then that's good for your kids too, because you're being a role model. And also, that sort of thing kids are really into. Anything physical, physical and organized, like, I don't know, even yoga is fantastic for young kids, right? And all these kinds of things. If you, as part of your shadow work or whatever, get into like martial arts, then that's going to be beneficial for your kids. So doing things with the kids in mind is always going to be something good for the self as well. Yeah. No, so cool. And you've done heaps of martial arts.
I would
So
love
cool.
to, um, get back to it. I was sort of in a situation where I was asking myself, what did I used to do as a child? Like, what do I really want to do? Like, am I joining like a yoga class because my friends invited me, or like, do I actually care about learning yoga? Okay, well, I actually do. Like, I actually get a lot out of it. Okay, well, what about, when you used to like wrestle with your brother growing up? That was really cool. That was something that we both, enjoyed because I actually started becoming better as he started becoming better. And, we grew up watching, WWF and all these sorts of things. And so I just was sort of like, yeah, why don't I just go back to that? Um, but I do think it's good to have like a sort of well-rounded, like not just focusing on groundwork but on grappling, but like having like a strike game, a kick game, um, endurance always is important. So I'm definitely like in my mom bod moment right now, but like eventually I would like to um, well, let me think about this from a shadow work perspective. I'm just going to just try to apply. So, like, I was wrong when I prioritized other responsibilities over self care. I will engage in a uh, martial arts practice for myself for physical health, and I have to do the right action. So, I guess I'll do it 3 times a week. Fuck!
Yeah. It's hard to fit everything in.
It is.
I keep getting injured now.
Maybe
I
two
took
times.
up I took up boxing. There's a boxing gym in this small town. It's really really good. And so like I've been going, but I keep getting injured because I'm like old and fragile. Yeah. So I'm still going, but at the moment I'm not because I ruptured my Achilles. So I just got to keep going. But yeah, it's I mean it's a tough journey, and I think there's an aspect of you know I think at the same time we've somehow got to not be too hard on ourselves because that's kind of self-defeating as well. So balance again, right? We've mentioned that a few times in this discussion. Balance and the center path, and but I think things like that, if you've done them right, they don't completely leave you. Like obviously, cardio fitness, that's the first thing to walk out the door in my life. But if you do martial arts, I don't think it's all completely forgotten, right? If you stop for a while, it's still there. But yeah, for the kids, they've got to be allowed to throw hands when hands are being thrown at them. Like it's just there's no there's no other way to really say it. It's just that's just how it is. And so that's like I think a key thing. Just bringing that back to the kids.
This is why I think there should actually be more positive male role models in early childhood because of this understanding. Like, I sent my older son to what I thought was, sort of positive, sort of Waldorf in mind experience, and it was there were like barely any males on staff. Firstly, which is like red flag, right? And then just a lot of like sweeping things under the rug, conflict avoidance, spiritual bypassing with not looking at whether, who started things, or like, really sort of analyzing, why conflicts occurred. And like, I think back to my son's experience in preschool where like he had like a really awesome preschool teacher that was male, that like was like a kind of like grandpa figure to all the kids, and like knew how to handle my energy. And him not having that in his last school experience, I think was really hard, you know?
Yeah. It's it's sad. But I'm so happy to have connected with you that you see these things too. From from your experiences in the centers and stuff. Oh, it's so cool. But yeah, the the religion in those institutions, and I think it's global, is that it's not okay to hit people, and there's not a timeline. So smacking back is still hitting people. And also that's the thing, like kids don't always smack back. They might just like get really angry and yell, or they might grab the person and say, "Don't you do that," or there's different ways of dealing with it. Like my niece, she just gets crazy eyes and growls and says, "Don't you ever do that again," and it frightens the kids. Yes, I was lucky enough to consult my brother about this. I can't believe he rang because he had a problem in the daycare. This person was bullying his daughter, my niece. And so it was just like, have the conversation just about what would you do about it? Like, what do you reckon you can do? And then just, do whatever you think's right. And what she thought was right was to do that. And it worked. And so nothing really changed. Like, it's not like, every kid has to become a kung fu master in this particular style of fighting or anything like that. They just have to know that it's okay for them to stick up for themselves. And whatever that means, well, it's whatever it means to them. They've got to do whatever they can do in the moment. Yeah, it's just sad, right? So that's the story in all the centers. And yeah, Waldorf as well. That's disappointing. Like, I mean, because there's not really, because it's so hidden, right? Natural law is so hidden. Like cause and effect as a rule. Like, who started it? Like, something started this. What's the cause of the problem and what can be done about it? And then the right to defend yourself in the sacred masculine is completely obfuscated, that when these things happen, people shy away from it because there's only two things to do. It's to say, oh, well, that's just how it is. You're just going to have to accept that that person's a bully, and oh, well. And no one wants to say that because that doesn't feel right. That doesn't sound right. Which we know actually lots of people do want to say that because that's the religion now. That's how it is. That's just how it is. You have to accept it. And then no one wants to be the one to say, hey, what are you going to do about that? I can't do anything about it. You've got to do something about it, little Timmy. Next time he does that, what do you think you should do? And see what they say, because it's up to the kids. Find out what the kids want to say. What do the kids have to say about it? Because that's the part where them being in the hands of God, deep down, they have the support, and they have the support that we get for doing the right thing spiritually, but they have it times 10 because they need that because they haven't fully grown yet. And in that space, they've got all the help that they need internally from the Creator to do the right thing in the right moment based on who they are as a person or who they're going to become. And they just need adults around that are like, I get it, and I know you get it too, and I'm with you. So you just do the right thing next time. You know what to do. I'll support you. That's when the crazy kung fu comes out. Or the crazy big growls.
Yeah. When you said mirror, I realized this is why the mirror work in the shadow work process works, because we weren't mirrored in our childhood experiences. I don't like to use the term trauma because within that naturally insinuates a victim mentality.
Yeah.
And so I try to think of things less as traumas and more as experiences. it's neither positive nor negative. It's just like, what did we learn from that? It's all growth, right? There's no failure. It's just learning. All of it's learning, and sort of thinking of things in that way. But yeah, like, shoot, I'm like losing my train of thought. Anyway, I lost it. It's okay.
No, no, I get
Me
what you're
later.
saying. I get what you're saying. It's a good point. It's like we're actually self-parenting doing the mirror shadow work, right?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, exactly. So let's like, because you didn't get that in your childhood, you can parent yourself.
Yeah.
Take responsibility for yourself. Give yourself accountability. Give yourself the love that you didn't get. Having being the divine father within yourself. Well, next time, protect yourself better. Do this and this better. Your divine feminine side. Okay, you've been going through a lot. Why don't you put your feet up and drink some tea? And just like really like being the mom and the dad to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that is I reckon exactly it. And that's why I think the Mark Passio Shadow Work seminar was so good, so powerful. I think it's the stuff that's kind of hard to explain how 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 well it works unless you actually do it yourself. Um, in a way, it's kind of like um, it was almost a little bit underplayed, and I don't mean it like that. It just comes across that way. Um, I think people want. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I just mean that Mark Passio says things very directly and matter of factly, like just do this and then do that and then do this, and it's like definitely do like, oh my god, do that. That is holy shit, like but it's without that stuff, and then that is actually what it is. Like I think it's soul scrying, right? It's yeah, and it is self parenting. We're actually doing that stuff in the front of the mirror. Actually, is doing the parenting to ourselves that we didn't get. The child aspect, the parts of our childhood that didn't get to develop, that became integrated into adulthood. And that's what we're addressing in front of the mirror. And if people are already aware of what's wrong with them, then obviously through other things like tapping and stuff, healing those aspects. Oh, so cool. So cool.
I'm really glad we got today, and that I've just been, like I said, a huge fan of your work, and like to finally like connect with you on this level, and sort of like right after the shadow work seminar from Mark Passio. So it was really good to sort of like think about and incorporate that like shared experience that we just had, and like thinking about like how we're going to apply to our efforts in the One Great Work, and just sort of like co-processing was really lovely.
Yeah, likewise. I'd like to do this again at some point. I think we'll probably like catch up on, different stages of, the projects we're working on and catch up. I think that'd be really cool if you're up for that.
Yeah, not only would I be down for that, but like I want to figure out a way to like have us work together. So like
Sure.
obviously, for like sound path stuff, and like I'll speak briefly, but like I've been kind of involved with like a child custody situation, and like I'm sort of alchemizing the experience into one of learning by prompt engineering, and like acting as an informal consultant for anyone who wants to represent themselves pro se in things, especially if there's natural law sort of injustices in your case. I'd love to support you. But yeah, like not personalizing anything that's happening to me or my children, just sort of seeing people as they are, which is like broken children, unhealed children, and just like seeing them as that. And yeah, just teaching people this stuff is not easy. A lot of people are going to have to learn it kicking and screaming. What can you do? You can't really control how they we can only control what we do and our free will choices, you know.
Yeah. I think that's a really noble cause. Um, just helping people, right? Serving others, and for stuff that's really crucial, trying to keep families together. It's like, man, without families together, I just don't think there's like any way. So that's just such an amazing endeavor that you're doing. I just want to share some. I just want to. I will when I do publish this, I'll put all the links. But Geri has a number of websites. Specialeducatingathome.com, godislovetruthfreedom.com. I think that's the main one, right, Geri? That's got access to a lot of your stuff.
Yeah, I have like a lot of my podcast work there. Um, and then it has links to my other projects like Sound Path and Liberation Academy and stuff on there.
Excellent. Liberation Academy, that's right. We've got that here. The liberationacademy.education. Wow, like a lot to check out. All of those things are just amazing. Special mention to Sound Path to Freedom. Geri reached out to me and made me reflect on things that I had dropped in my life that I really love, which was songwriting. And Geri inspired me truly to pick up the guitar again, and I'm back into songwriting. And I actually had nothing to do with Sound Path to Freedom, just the fact that Geri did it was an inspiration to me to get back into making music. And yeah, it's all about just balancing these parts of ourselves. Like, we got to have fun. We got to do we got to do things that we like to do as well. And kids bring that out in us too and inspire us to do that. And also, knowing that you're out there doing stuff for the kids, it motivates me, inspires me to stay fresh on my secret kindergarten work. Knowing that there's cool people out there listening to it too, I try a little bit harder. So that's really important for me too. So I appreciate you, Geri, and it's so cool to meet you. And we'll do this again soon. And I will press stop on the recording.